Inflation is now near term, close to the lowest levels we've seen in that survey. So I think Americans do believe inflation's under control. And a recent, I think it was last week, Axios survey showed that when people are asked about how they feel about their own finances, over 60% said they consider them good.
Treasury Secretary Yellen doesn't understand why consumers aren't happier about how much slower inflation is growing. Wow. But this is how it's impacted in consumer sentiment, which they've got to track the sentiment and the expectations, because it's not what's real that counts. This was Henry Kissinger. It's not what's true that counts. It's what is perceived to be true that counts. Because this whole thing is being held together by confidence. The consumer is losing confidence. That's the last layer left. When that's done, you better have your gold and silver. That's all I can say.
Welcome back to another insightful dive with Lynette Zang. Today, we're unraveling a crucial topic that's impacting every one of us: the consumer's role in the economy amidst rising inflation. Did you know that your spending habits are the lifeline keeping stock prices afloat globally? Yes, the world is watching, and so are we. In a time when the Federal Reserve's favorite price gauge is on the rise and inflation is still here, how are we managing to keep spending? We're going to break it all down, from the necessities of food and energy to the alarming drop in savings rates. As the labor market cools, purchasing power diminishes. Despite official reports of wage increases, are we truly better off? Spoiler alert, inflation is outpacing income growth, squeezing our wallets tighter than ever. Stick around as Lynette dives deep into these pressing issues, revealing the real trends behind the numbers. Ready to get informed? Let's jump right in.
I'm Lynette Zang, founder and CEO of Zang Enterprises. And you guys, we're back with another video. We have to pay attention to what's happening with the consumer, because the whole world is counting on the consumer keeping all of these stock prices elevated in the income, blah, blah, blah. So let's go in and check, because the Fed's favored price gauge rises at a mild pace, spending holds up. So that means that prices are going up, inflation is still there, but yet people keep spending. Well, you have to keep spending on food and energy and those necessities of life. But let's just take a look at this, because this is the underlying inflation gauge, and they want to lower the rate. So they want you to think that inflation is getting under control. That means just slowing down its pace of rise. But here's their inflation gauge, and guess what we see here? It's going up, isn't it? Yes, it is. As the savings rate is falling, people are being forced to spend more. Well, if they don't have any money to buy with, they must be using something else, and we're going to talk about that. But signs of cooling in the labor market are starting to translate into less purchasing power. What does that mean? That means that incomes are rising even slower than they were before, but the prices keep on climbing, right? The real trend is in purchasing power, and we're losing it officially. Wages and salaries rose 0.3% in June, half the prior month's pace on an inflation-adjusted basis. How convenient. Disposable income growth slowed to 0.1%. That means basically it did absolutely nothing. Even though incomes grew, inflation grew faster. Share of U.S. credit cards past due climbs to the highest level since 2012. Look at this. This is reflecting rising consumer pain. That's a problem if you're continuing to want the consumers to consume. Because frankly, unlike central banks' ability to print as much money as they want to, consumers have limits. But in every sector, whether it's 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days, those delinquencies are rising very, very rapidly now. What's going to stop that? Especially since, hey, we're not even in a recession. I'll bet you there would be people out there that completely disagree that they are indeed in a recession. And at the same time, because, I mean, after all, Treasury Secretary Yellen doesn't understand why consumers aren't happier about how much slower inflation is growing. Wow. But this is how it's impacted in consumer sentiment, which they've got to track the sentiment and the expectations, because it's not what's real that counts. This was Henry Kissinger. It's not what's true that counts. It's what is perceived to be true that counts. So as long as the consumer thinks that the government and the central banks have this under control, they can just keep turning those screws, baby. But it was a huge slide. The University of Michigan gauge slid to 66.4, and not that long ago, it was at 101.4. That is the sentiment. That is the likelihood of them going and spending, or consumers spending money on extra things other than just necessities. Look at that huge drop. What do you think that means? Because this whole thing is being held together by confidence. The consumer is losing confidence. That's the last layer left. When that's done, you better have your gold and silver. That's all I can say, as well as your food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, arguably the most important part, and shelter. These are the things that we need to sustain a reasonable standard of living. Stop hesitating. Stop procrastinating. Get it done. To set up your strategy, it is critically, critically important. And frankly, we do not filter the questions. And I'm not going to take anything with bigotry, but other than that, you can ask me anything. Together, I know, as a community, we can make a positive difference. Let's come together and do that. And until next we meet, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.
And there you have it, folks. Lynette Zang has brilliantly dissected the complex dynamics of inflation and its impact on our daily lives. From the pressures on consumer spending to the worrying trends in purchasing power, it's clear that staying informed is more critical than ever. Remember, understanding these economic shifts empowers us to make better decisions. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to stay updated with more valuable insights from Lynette. Got questions or thoughts on today's topic? Drop them in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay savvy, stay informed, and keep watching our videos for the latest on our ever-changing economy. Take care.